Let's see what this is at
So
right here.
I'm anticipating a fun.
Stop hitting on a man.
Well, you'd have to take that up with my wife.
If you knock her up, no abortion.
All right. So to begin.
So this is Brenton. This is the guys we debated. The two guys on the opposite side is on the pro-choice side, and I'm on the left with, I don't know if you're left, my right, or whatever, but on the other side is me and a woman named Kay Fellows, and we're on the pro-life side. So I'll definitely just play the opening statements, because only he gave an opening statement, and then I kind of like came back with a retort of some sort. And, you know, if y'all want to go see the whole thing, y'all can, but some people were over there to actually see it. But I want y'all to hear exactly how it went.
Throughout my, and by the way, so Josh is going to be ceding his time to me, since he wanted to more get into the bantery stuff. But Josh is also on the Fakertarians podcast. Definitely check that out. And if you guys don't know me, my name is Brenton Lengel. I am the Ringo Award nominated comic creator of Snow White Zombie Apocalypse and Darude Shadow of the People, which just got my first graphic novel funded. So to begin. Throughout my entire life, one of the largest and most hot-button issues that has been talked about is abortion, the act of doctors taking action to prevent a pregnancy from continuing to develop. It was one of the first political issues I remember being cognizant of after overhearing a discussion between my mother and someone on the phone. I think one of the reasons why this topic is so hotly debated, and of course exploited by politicians and advertisers for clicks, clout, and votes, is because we as humans have an innate tendency to protect the youngest members of our species. If anything is hardwired by nature and into our moral and ethical intuition, it is the protection of children. As a parent, I understand this all too well. But as someone who pays attention, what I also understand is that clever and immoral people often use this to manipulate us. The frequent refrain of "think of the children" is the fascists' favorite go-to move.
All right, so I think that's what kind of triggered me right there when we first started talking. Austin says, I feel like you're a right-leaning independent. I am. I'm a right-leaning independent. I do believe that, very much so. But this guy, he said the fascists go to that line of question. I think that's what triggered me, because I didn't have an opening statement ready or whatever the case may be. I was just going to kind of like go with the flow. But then he started these buzzwords that was kind of like hitting me, and I was like, I got to respond to this. But I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. I'm going to put it, instead of it being on normal, I'm going to put the speed on like maybe 1.5. Hopefully y'all can keep up. If y'all want me to slow it down, just let me know.
So we need to be very careful when we approach this issue. Emotions often cloud judgment, and if anything clouds judgment more than runaway feelings, it is in-group loyalty and tribalism. As this particular wedge issue is utilized by one of the most infamous gangs of fools, thieves, and murderers ever to walk this planet's surface, and by that I'm referring to the Republican Party, we have to be incredibly careful in how we engage with this thorny and ethical question. Most of us would quite rightly say that all things being equal, if push comes to shove, it is better or more ethical that an adult be injured or die instead of a child. And since a fetus grows from a clump of cells to a living, breathing baby over the course of 9 months, many assume that a fetus is simply a very young, very small child. So you can see the argument. This is a baby. We as humans have a moral duty to protect it. Now, this is intuitive and easy to understand. However, like many intuitive and easy to understand concepts, it is very, very wrong. The thalamus, which is the part of our brain that is responsible for cognition, experience, memory, and consciousness itself, does not develop until at least 26 weeks, 6.5 months into the pregnancy. And the thalamus cannot actually function until a few weeks later, after the beginning of the third trimester. An argument you often hear from pro-choice people.
I sped it up. I made the video faster. This is he had like maybe a 10-minute opening, and I just didn't want y'all to have to like sit here and go through the whole opening, right? So I just kind of sped it up a little bit. But let me see. If y'all want me to slow it back down, I'll slow it back down. Y'all should listen to me, because I listen to everything at 2 times the speed, even Ben Shapiro.
Is that a fetus is to a baby what an acorn is to a tree. Well, I'm sorry, my fellow pro-choicers, this is a terrible argument, and you are 100% wrong. Because without a sufficiently developed thalamus, a fetus is more directly comparable to an acorn or a tree than to a living, breathing human baby or adult. Now, A lot gets made about the Catholic Church's official position on this issue. Life begins at conception. This is because due to the fallacy of the beard, it is difficult to find a point where the fetus goes from a fetus to a person who should be granted all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities that we all enjoy. Essentially, because we can never determine the exact point where enough grains of sand make a pile or the sufficient growth of facial hair becomes a beard, many just automatically divert to conception. But at conception, the fetus has no ability to feel anything, not pain, not pleasure. It has no consciousness. And in this respect, there's very little difference between it and any other living but inanimate matter. So if we're going to try to find a point at which a fetus becomes a person, it would seem to me that starting around 28 weeks would be a much more accurate benchmark for assigning rights and personhood than conception. However, I don't feel that this argument will be particularly convincing.
Y'all should look at me. I'm just sitting there like, it's like everything in me wants to say something, right? And I'm like, I don't like doing debates where people have like opening statements because like I prefer to have a conversation. I prefer like if you're going to say something, I should be able to respond to it. And we kind of go back and forth like that, right? And which we do at some point. But to sit through an opening statement and hear a person make a bunch of like a litany of statements, my apology, but to make a litany of like statements and try to respond to all of that, you're just never going to be able to do it. So it's kind of like I'm sitting there like painfully like sitting through this. Not to say that not to say that I was like suffering, but I really just wanted to jump in so many times. Britain later went on to say no one uses it as birth control, while at the same time explaining that that is what him and his wife do. Yeah, true.
To those who already have had their minds made up for them by the leaders of their communities and the talking heads on the television. We are talking in the abstract. So even though I don't think that a fetus can rightly be considered a person until at least 28 weeks, we are missing something very big. And this is because the main character of our story up till now has been the fetus. And like men have been doing since time immemorial, we are forgetting the humanity of the woman. You see, being pro-life isn't simply that position. If pro-life people are serious about what they believe and what they want, they must necessarily agree that what they are really arguing for is government-enforced pregnancy.
See, there's the fallacy. Talk about trying to still man a person's position. It's not necessarily government force. And I kind of try to explain this later on in the debate. The government is very much involved in our medical procedures at all times. There are certain procedures and surgeries and medicines that the government deems unsafe or that you just can't get. Your doctor can't provide it to you or whatever the case may be. That's not forcing you to have an abortion. What it is saying is you are unable as a doctor or a healthcare provider to provide certain types of procedures or certain types of medicines. And that's just the way it is. There are many people who would like to try experimental like procedures and stuff like that, and they have to go to other countries to try it, and that's just the way it is. That's not the government forcing them to have that condition or whatever the case may be. And they tend to think that telling a doctor that they can't perform a certain procedure is somehow a violation of privacy, but the government is already involved in that type of business. The government already has a vested interest in telling you what you can and cannot do. I forgot my face is so small down here, but here I am.
As in the pro-life movement's political goal is
you see I'm holding my head down like, oh my God.
not to preserve life. At least not for most of them. This doesn't actually apply to Kay.
I see you smiling.
Their goal is to empower police to violently force at gunpoint an unwilling woman to remain pregnant against her will. Essentially, what they want to do is to apply to a fetus a right that no other human has, which is the right to use somebody else's body against their will. This is usually compared to forced organ donation and usually centers around the kidney, as in whether or not it would be ethical for the government to force someone to donate a kidney to one of the 10,000 people a year who die for want of one.
All right, I'm going to put it like this. This is how I try to respond to that, right? If you wake up in my bathtub and I have personally removed your kidney from your body, right? If I personally removed your kidney from your body and sold it on the black market, and then you needed a kidney to live, I would think that the government, by all means, has a right to take my kidney and give it to you. Now, every example that they give when it comes to abortion is, well, you're forcing this person to do this. Okay, but every analogy that they try to use, it doesn't hold up because they always remove the responsibility of the person who laid down and had, whatever activity it took to get pregnant in the first place. That person and that person, that woman and that man came together and made that child together, right? But in their examples, it's always as if the government came, forced that woman to lay down on the bed and impregnated her themselves and are going to make her have that kid. But it's not necessarily how this whole process works. And to me, it just, that point never seems to get across.
So
hey, while y'all at it, if y'all ain't hit the like button yet, go ahead and hit the like button while you at it. Smash it.
It seemed to me that if you're the kind of person like myself who doesn't trust the government, it's intensely strange that one would allow the state to use its violence to violate another person's rights in this manner. If you're someone who thinks, for instance, that the government is inferior to private charity, it seems incredibly inconsistent to assume that the government would be effective at preventing abortions.
So it's a violation of your rights for you to naturally conceive a child and have that child. That's a violation of your rights. I don't necessarily see how we come to this line of thinking in America and where we are today. But he has a little longer to
Now,
go.
people will sometimes say that the government is good, but only when it is defending people's lives. But we know this isn't true. The government is really bad at defending people's lives. The state cannot protect us from terrorists. It can't protect us from mass shooters. It certainly doesn't protect us from the many children it's constantly bombing. The point is, if you want to give that power to police, you will have terrible outcomes for doctors, for women, and especially for anyone involved.
See, people are under the impression that we're going to say, all right, if you're going to ban abortions, basically what you would do is tell the police to go to that woman's house, force her into the hospital, and force her to have a kid. No, that's not how it works. All it says is that medical professionals cannot perform these procedures. It's a complete flip. They think that we're going to send the police or the Gestapo to somebody's house and force this procedure to take place. And I'm going to try to get these people on my show at some point because I want to have more and more conversations.
Because we have seen over these past few years that police are often brutal, stupid, and, quite frankly,
I think he is. It's the other guy at the bottom. He's British.
Evil. And that is how a lot of them interact with the public. So anytime that you have a law that people won't obey, be that prohibition, the war on drugs, and if the Republicans are correct, banning guns across the country, that is a bad law. And obviously, we have seen that prohibition does not work. But to bring this back around, because we're talking really big here, I kind of want to share something personally. There's a reason I wanted to have this debate tonight. And that is because I'm a husband and a father. And I would like my son to have a little brother or sister one day. Now, the problem here is that my wife is a high-risk pregnancy.
All right, so anytime that I'm in like a debate or a conversation, and things get very personal, like it does right now, when people bring up like personal situations that they're going through, it's a very hard thing to deal with because you want to be able to have a conversation without being insensitive to a personal situation that a person is going to, which is why I never bring up anything personal that might be very sensitive in my life while I'm having a debate because I don't necessarily want it to either be used against me or for the other person to come off as insensitive when they're trying to have a good faith conversation. So he brought up his wife and I knew instantly right then and there, I knew, okay, now I have to be very careful on how I approach the situation because I don't want to come off as if I'm dismissing his emotional attachment or connection with his wife and the situation that they're going through. And I wish he wouldn't have brought it up, but some people think that it's a very good point to bring up. And that's one way to argue by appealing to people's emotions. It criminalizes someone getting that procedure. The choice becomes have the kids or face fines, jail, prison. That is true, David. But you also know that it is also true for many other procedures. If a doctor does a procedure that the government deems to be unsafe or harmful, that also becomes a problem. I mean, you would agree, David, that the government is involved with certain procedures and stuff like that. So that just speaks to the process of violation of privacy. That a client and a doctor has a special right of privacy, but yet, if you agree with that, then you also have to agree that the government is already violating that privacy. Pierce Morgan. How can someone do a debate from a political issue that doesn't affect them? They do not live here. Yeah, he didn't really try to take the stance. He just kind of tried to offer, I guess, some insight on what they do in Europe and try to compare it to like how it's done there and maybe something we can learn from it. I don't think the guy from Europe took a very hard stance, and many times throughout the debate, he kind of like agreed with me and gave me a lot of let's say bones, as he called it. He gave me a lot of points for points that I made that he agreed with. Abortions aren't unsafe and often are necessary for safety. And the argument from the pro-life side is it's unsafe for the child. It's unsafe for the fetus, which people in the pro-life position hold that is human life. And we talk about that. I'm not going to play the whole debate. Like I said, y'all can go find it on Modern Day Debate, the YouTube channel, if y'all want to see the whole thing.
He has a chronic illness, and as a result, my son was actually born 6 weeks premature. Now, anytime she winds up getting pregnant, this is a severe threat to her life and limb. And in turn, what we're dealing with now, specifically because the Republicans are going to force Roe v. Wade ending Roe v. Wade on the country, which, by the way, doesn't want to end it. The majority of people are pro Roe v. Wade, it's just the Republicans that don't like it. What's happening now is we are actually sitting there having a conversation. Can we actually?
You should definitely go watch it. You should definitely watch it, David. I swear, because like the whole conversation, and I think you're very intelligent, and many of you are going to see it if you watch the debate. You're going to notice that I've raised a lot of points that I feel as if they agreed with me, and despite them agreeing with me or giving me the credit on the points that I made, still somehow refuse to see how those points defeated their argument. And look, I can be biased and say, yeah, of course I'm going to agree with my side. But I think it's very clear if you watch the whole debate, even if you still think that, pro-choice is the way, you will see that based on how this discussion went and this debate went, if they gave me certain points, then it defeated their argument.
Actually have another child? Is it right to take that big of a risk? Since oftentimes the medical things that she needs to receive in order to possibly live and to prevent me from losing my wife and my son from losing his mother are very likely to be denied to her very soon. Pregnancy is incredibly dangerous, far more dangerous than getting an abortion. And the fact is that we have seen in countries like Poland and Ireland
Malta.
Thank you. Got
about a minute left.
When abortion
use
is
this time.
criminalized, what happens is women die. Even if you have a supposition to say, okay, well, in a medical emergency, then obviously we can allow it. But the problem is that when the government phrases it like that, and they have in the most recent, in several of the recent laws, I believe the law in Texas, what happens is that doctors are reluctant to treat because they are afraid they could be charged with manslaughter or murder, and they wind up holding off on necessary care, and this leads to the mother dying time and time again. The fact is that abortion.
I think this was a very long opening statement. I think he gave him like 10 minutes or something like that from the very beginning. I know that I'm a very fast-paced type of person. Like I'm like, let's get in, let's start, like, let's get into it. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, and let's back and forth. And sometimes like sitting through, I don't even like to listen to like debates where people have like these long opening statements. I kind of prefer the conversation type because it's impossible for somebody to like address all of your points in a rebuttal or in their opening statement. And oftentimes many of the points that's raised never actually get addressed in a debate. And it's just not my style of debate. And this was like the first time I did a debate where they were like opening statements, even though he was the only one who really did one, and I followed him up on it.
And is a necessary medical procedure that needs to be available for people like my wife. And the fact is that when we talk about all of this, we have to stop thinking of the people who get these abortions as being people who simply want them because they're being irresponsible. That is not the fact. 60% of people who get abortions are parents. But on top of that, I really feel like
it's time up, but
idea of someone who uses abortion specifically as birth control or simply just decides to abort for one reason or another, these people aren't real.
Like I said, y'all really got to go watch this debate, because I brought up the fact that I had 4 felonies and that I grew up in poverty and stuff like that. And they literally made the point that that's why people need abortions. Because I was like, you can't predict the future. I got 4 felonies myself, and I've been through this. I grew up in poverty, on the welfare, and all of that situation. And I still turned out to be a pretty okay guy. I have a YouTube channel. I work for a living. I do all of this stuff. I'm a very productive citizen of society. But based on your logic, because my mom was poor or whatever, it was better if she had an abortion, even though my mom had 7 kids, right? And she would have had 8 if she didn't have a miscarriage, right? But, and they basically was like, well, based on what you said, you had 4 felonies. So maybe, you're proving our point that abortion is a good thing for poor people. And they kind of they basically said, from what you take from it, at least that's what I took from it, and many people in the comment section took from it, is because I had 4 felonies, it probably was better if I was aborted. And I just can't realistically say that to someone.
Are real, probably shouldn't be parents, and I definitely wouldn't want to be their child. So,
just going to say one thing, Brent. We've actually gone over time. The amount of rambling you do, you're like Joe Biden here. You should run for president in 2024.
Thank you. I probably will, except I'm an anarchist.
I'll be your VP. I'll be a VP.
So the point is, as I was saying,
Hill just kind of made a lot of jokes throughout the night. That was kind of like one of his sticks.
He really need to preserve this. It's very important to me. It's very important to my family, and it's very important.
Hold on. Try to get y'all question. That's awful. Shaniqua, what's up? I think they were pointing to the fact that you personally contributed to the higher crime rates. It's like cause and effect. If high crime rates are something you care about, high crime rates do matter, and they do. But I don't think they came off necessarily that way. What they were basically saying is, well, if you would have been aborted, then you wouldn't have to go through all of that. You wouldn't have, had to go to prison, or you wouldn't have grew up poor and struggled, or whatever the case may be. And we're trying to prevent children from going through that type of lifestyle, or whatever the case may be. But we still have to deal with the fact that we are not replacing our workforce in America as properly as we should. Just because you're born in poverty doesn't mean you're going to remain in poverty. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not worth being born. I think out of all the pro-choice arguments, I think to me that might be the worst argument. I think either it's the woman's body, her choice. I think that's one of the worst arguments, and the fact that people are poor, so therefore they should have abortions, like as if being born to a poor parent automatically means that the best decision was you should have been aborted because you grew up in poverty. And there are so many people I know that grew up in poverty who's doing just fine and doing great. And to say that because they were a poverty baby, that maybe it was best that their mom had an abortion. I just think that it sends the very wrong message, in my opinion. But to be good faith, I don't think that's how they see it when they say it, but I think that's how people receive it. And, a best friend of mine was supposed to be aborted too. Docs told her to, but she's Christian, so she had him. He's the most sensible, balanced friend I have. We have super low economic mobility in the U.S. Easiest way to make money is to be born with money. While that may be the case, the actual, and let me see if I got it here, because I know I have it. But over the decades, the standard of living for most Americans have increased drastically. So even being poor today doesn't necessarily mean what we would have meant poor 100 years ago or 30 years ago. It's a definitely different type of poor. Poor people in America have food in their fridge. Poor people in America has cars and phones and things of that sort. And let me see. I have it written here somewhere. Let's see. Here it is. Oh yeah, the Federal Reserve states that all states experienced positive welfare growth between 1999 and 2015 drastically, with the standard of living have increased to where our standard of living isn't even determined how we used to once determine it. 96.5% are performed for economic and social convenience reasons. Yep. Look at Hunter Biden born with a silver spoon. Somebody argued what percentage of the black population should be killed because of felonies, poverty, etc. I mean, that is a very good question, right? Alex, what's up? Humans are not ready to live in an abortion-free world. Are humans not ready? When will we be ready?
Important to every woman that I know. And so, that's why I am.
So even though they went over time, I kind of just waited it out because I'm like, okay, let them have this. Let them get it all out, right? Because, I mean, I've already decided at this point of the debate that I have to do an opening statement. And I don't think I went on as long as he did.
Good choice. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Brenton. And thank you so much, Josh, for your 10-minute opening statement. And we will go ahead and kick it over.
Like one sentence.
If y'all want, I can drop a link in the comment section if anybody wants to jump on. I don't know if y'all necessarily want to. You don't have to show y'all face or anything, but like I said, this is agree or disagree. So if you agree with me or disagree with me on something, we could definitely let you jump on if you want or if you can. If not, I still read the comments.
Man, you don't need to thank me for anything.
We really appreciate it.
You literally told me you'd cede your time to me.
It was a great sentence.
I know.
So
I'm trying to build on the jokes here. Come on.
Yeah.
Just want to let everybody know that we will have a 45-minute open discussion after we have our opening statements from the anti-abortion side, and then a 20-minute closing section, and then a 30-minute Q&A. So please, if you have a question or comment for the debaters, shoot it into the live.
Yeah, that's another thing. Not only poor people, but people who are born disabled or have mental health challenges or things of that sort. It's a very hard thing to just count people out based on any particular situation, because I don't like to pretend as if I know the future. Now, we can say statistically certain people are likely to experience certain things or go through certain things. Yes, that is true. But at the same time, we don't know which ones will and which ones won't. And we're basically playing like judge and jury when we decide who deserves it and who doesn't. And it's just not something that I personally think I can get on board with.
Chat, tag me at Modern Day Debate. Super chats will go to the top of the list, and please keep it civil. Insults will not be read. And with that, we will go ahead and kick it over.
You've got to read the insults, especially if it's against me.
Except for the ones against Josh.
Fine. Yeah, thank you very much. So listen, everyone, if you want to insult anyone, this guy here. Okay.
And
What's up, Frankie? What's up? I see y'all coming in. Y'all coming in or y'all been in, go ahead and hit the like button while y'all at it, man. It really helps. Definitely.
Unless they break TOS or our hate speech.
If you're just coming in, this is my abortion debate that I had the other night on Modern Day Debate. Y'all can go see the full thing on Modern Day Debate. Should be like, I had this chat Saturday night, so you should be able to find it under the videos. It shouldn't be too far down. So I'm just doing the opening statements between me and this other guy.
In which case you will be banned.
Yeah, obviously don't use racist words against
Just say he looks like Sonic the Hedgehog. He does.
I do.
Well, there you go.
Here we go.
So at your first word, Javier or Kay, whichever one wants to go first.
Ladies first.
I actually don't have an opening statement. I prefer whenever discussing abortion that we kind of get right into the conversation. So if Javier has any opening statement that he would like to give before we go into open discussion, that's fine.
Yes, I didn't have an opening statement myself, but after listening to Brenton's opening statement, I feel as if it is my duty as an American citizen to respond. My name is Javier. I host the Javier Show on YouTube, Politics, Religion, and Culture. And I am pro-life. And before I get started, I want to say that I will not insult anyone. I will not insult you because you have a difference of an opinion than I do, or you come to a different conclusion based on the facts and evidence that you viewed. I will not call you out of your name. I will not call you a fascist. I will not call you anything because I believe that we are all humans on this earth trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And that's me kind of basically responding to the fact that he called like people who kind of was like pro-life, like the fascists in a sense. No, there are about a dozen large democracies that have higher standards of living than the U.S. Oh, no, I didn't say that the U.S. had the highest standard of living. That's not what I said. I said that the standard of living in America has increased over the decades. So what we consider to be poor 50, 40, 30 years ago is not necessarily the same poor now. There are poor people with food in their fridge, poor people with cars and phones. Like, that's what I was saying. I'm not saying compared to other countries or anything like that. That's what I was saying. Abortion for some miniature, American flags for others. Tanya dropped the link. Link to full debate. Thank you, Tanya. Tanya, what's up, girl? You gonna sneak up in here on me? I hope you had a good day. How was your day, Tanya? My bad, David. My bad. So, with that being said, I want to point out that while it was personal that he brought up the fact that his wife is someone who is at high risk of actually risking her life by having a baby, most abortions are not on the behalf of that reason. Most abortions actually are due to convenience. Only 1% to 0.5% of people who are actually having abortions for rape, incest, or because their life is in danger out of all the people who have abortions. Not only is that the fact, the government has working in the garden. Ooh, you got a garden, girl? Oh, to let y'all know, I just closed on my first house yesterday. Yesterday, I went there, went to the lawyer's office and closed on my first house. So it's gonna be a headache. I gotta move all of this stuff. I gotta get a new office set up. It's gonna be crazy. The room might not be the same, so I gotta figure out a lot of stuff. So when it's time for me to make that transition, I'll definitely let y'all know. But it might be a little rough trying to get videos out. I hope I do my best. But I'm gonna be having to transition all of my YouTube studio over and trying to set up a new one. So yeah. Thank you, Tanya. Bringing up the wife is anecdotal. Definitely. Congrats, Harvey. You want some chickens, bro? I might take you up on them chickens. Tracy, thank you, Tracy. So it's a lot gonna be happening here. I'm actually trying to transition to another career as well. I don't want to be a truck driver anymore, so I'm trying to figure out another career to go into. At the moment, I spend a lot of time behind the wheel, and I never know when I'm going to be off, or I never know when I'm going to be able to make my videos, and everything is like so crunched for time. So either I'm going to become a full-time YouTuber, or I'm going to have to find another career and still try to do my YouTube part-time. I'll be rolling with the big dog. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Roof, roof. I got 30. I can spare some. And ducks too. Went from the hood in Philly to being a farmer. Farmer life, a lot of people don't know it. Farmer life is a good life, you know, especially if you're the type of person in tune with nature and things of that sort. A lot of people just don't know it. I grew up in my projects. If you took like maybe a walk like 3 miles, you'll run into a farm, and they had all kind of different animals and different vegetables and stuff like that. We used to go out and get peaches and everything. But I used to go work on a farm with one of my friends' auntie's house, and she had horses and stuff like that, and we would help her around, and she would pay us. And that was kind of the most extent. But my wife is not going to let me get any chickens or any ducks or anything like that. Yeah, I'm a trucker, Alex. I think many of us are truckers. Truckers got too much time to think. I can help organize and decorate your studio. Laugh out loud. Trust me, you wouldn't even want to. Trust me, you wouldn't even want to. I'm gonna try to set it up different than the way I got it now. I might have to, but we'll see. Farmer life is not glorifying. No one is talking about making everyone earn the same thing. Oh, y'all must be having a conversation. Apparently, the hood is spreading to the farmland. Had a murder in our tiny town other day. Oh no! I'm sorry to hear that. I did want to kind of discuss a little bit of the gun debate as well. I'll finish my opening statement on this abortion thing, but I saw something earlier. I'm going to see if I can pull it up. As a duty and an entitlement to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, earlier, my opponent said that life doesn't begin at inception, but according to Princeton University, life begins at fertilization. And I looked into this heavily, and most people, if you can't agree that life begins at fertilization, most scientists have not settled the fact on when life does begin. So I like to err on the side of caution. If we do not know when life begins, then I think it is our duty to err on the side of caution and not take a risk by destroying that life by convenience in most cases of an abortion. Not only do I think that it is a case, most of the people on the pro-choice side will make arguments such as, well, how are you going to force a woman to be pregnant? Last time I checked, women got pregnant due to sexual activity. And in most cases, like we already discussed, most women get abortions due to convenience, not out of fear of life or rape or incest. So, sorry, that doesn't work. Nobody forced her to get pregnant. She, knowing the risk in most cases, laid down with someone, and sorry, pregnancy happens due to the fact of sexual intercourse. Sorry for my explicit language. I know some people can be sensitive to that, but I'll also point out the fact. I also point out the fact that if life begins at fertilization, or we do not know when life begins, then I think it is very much the business of the government to decide whether they're going to protect that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In the Declaration of Independence, our founders clearly spelled out the fact that the governments are instituted amongst men to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not only that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to those ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute a new government. Now, with that being said, if we do not know when life begins, or we do not know exactly, I see a Q. Question: are conservatives capable of considering policy without instantly jumping to the most extreme solution furthest removed from the policy at hand? You have to give me an example. Give me an example. Are conservatives capable of considering policy without instantly jumping to the most extreme solution furthest removed from the policy at hand? Give me an example. I'm guessing something I said must have triggered you to ask that question. Can you be a little more specific? That way I can better understand exactly what you're trying to ask me. What the government's role is in protecting life, we should err on the side of caution. If the government cannot protect the life of the unborn child, which all evidence seems to point in the fact that either life begins at fertilization or we do not know, then if the government is not protecting that life, then the government is not serving its role. Now, as far as the fetus goes, that is just a development stage of human life. And the reason I say that is because many pro-choice advocates will argue a woman's body, a woman's choice. But technically, it's not a woman's body. And the reason that it's not a woman's body is because of the fact that a baby has its own genetic DNA. Not only that, but it also shares DNA with the father as well, equally with the mother. But we would not consider that baby to be a part of the father. So would we then make the argument that fathers should be able to abort their babies? You would not make that argument. And it's clear that that baby is not a part of the father's body, even though it shares half of his genetic code. Now, I'll also point out, and I'll wrap it up here, right? Okay.
Take a deep breath.
Another argument that the the pro-choice make is that, well, women are living in poverty, or women are suffering, or they might not be in a good condition financially to have a kid and to bring that child up into this world, and that child might grow up in poverty or whatever the case may be. But we have countless amount of evidence that shows that over the decades, people's standard of living have constantly been rising and rising and rising above. And not only that, compared to, especially in America, the standard of living is much higher than most developed countries in the world. So if that is the case, you cannot guarantee that just because a child is born into poverty, that child will somehow remain in poverty, or that mother will live through poverty when we know that people get themselves out of poverty all the time. And what we consider to be poor in America isn't necessarily what we meant by poor 50, 60, 70, or 100 years ago. There are poor people with food in their fridge, more food in their fridge than people who work middle-class jobs due to social programs and welfare and things of that sort. Poor people have cars, poor people have cell phones, and I just think that it's bad taste to say that because somebody is poor, they cannot raise a child. My mom has 7 kids, 7, and she did it all living in poverty. And here I stand before you, a convicted felon of 4 felonies who got out after serving 5 years in prison to have my own YouTube channel, to work a full-time job and be a productive member of society. So I'm sorry, but pro-choice people just cannot predict the future. And I'm not willing to gamble on life just because some people might presume that that child will live in poverty. I'll lend the floor. That is the end of my opening statement.
All
Can I
right, Kate,
quickly
did you have
come
anything you want to say?
back- Can I quickly come back to Javier for 1 sec?
Before you do that, let me just go ahead and say, let me just do.
Yeah, so that's kind of how our opening statements went. I think I was a little bit nervous on this time because I never actually had a formal debate like this before. So I was a little nervous about exactly how the whole process would go. I see I have a healthy debate. Let's see. All right, let me get back on this thing. But this is the YouTube channel right here, Modern Day Debate. So if y'all want to go check it out, like I said, Tanya dropped the link in the description below as well. You know, the Javier Show, we both grew up on the government cheese. Amazing. I know, right? That government cheese make you strong. It make you strong, right? You know, I just think that counting people out because of their circumstances or situation, I just think it's not necessarily the right path to go, regardless if you're pro-choice or pro-life. I just think saying that because a person is going to grow up in a certain circumstance, that it's better that they don't live. Now, if you make the argument that person is going to be like in extreme pain their entire existence by being born, then you might want to make an argument that, okay, it's possible that we don't want to put this person through extreme pain. But just the act of being poor doesn't say anything about your experience and how you will grow up and what your outcomes will be.